We have two panelists who have time constraints. We have Rabbi Hanan Schlesinger of Hut, working for encounters between Jews and Arab and Palestinians, and working in the settlements. He will explain that to us. Please, Rabbi Hanan Schlesinger, you've got the floor for 3 minutes.
Donc maintenant, c'est le Rabbi Hanan Schlesinger qui va parler pendant.
So my name is Hanan Schlesinger. I'm one of the founders and one of the directors of Roots. In Hebrew, that's Shorashim. In Arabic, that's Chudor, Israeli-Palestinian grassroots initiative for understanding nonviolence and transformation. We work in the heart of the conflict, in the area that we Jews call Judean Samaria, that others call disputed territory or liberated territory or Greater Israel or Palestine or Palestinian territory or the West Bank. What we do is we endeavor to build human bridges of acceptance, of recognition, of partnership, of trust and empathy between the two peoples who live side by side, but see themselves as completely separate one from the other. Through face-to-face meetings and joint programs, we try to begin healing what I call the hubris of exclusivity, that disease that leads both sides to deny the existence, the narrative, and legitimacy of the other side. We in Roots believe that we're laying the human groundwork that is necessary for a political solution that will bring peace and justice to this tiny strip of land that both Israelis and Palestinians.
Please, I have to interrupt you, but hello. Yes, I have to interrupt you because for the translation, we cannot do it simultaneously. So you have to go for a few sentences and give me the time to translate, and then we go on. Okay? So sorry about that. All right. So now you can go.
So we are bringing together enemies in the heart of the conflict in Judean Samaria / Palestine.
Donc voilà, nous amenons des idées dans cette conception de Judée-Samarie - Palestine. Voilà.
On the Israeli side, we're talking about settlers, we're talking about religious Jews, we're talking about the people with a deep sense of historical identity, rootedness and connectedness to the land.
Du côté israélien, nous parlons de habitants des territoires occupés, nous parlons de personnes qui vont habiter sur la terre d'Israël. Yes, go ahead.
On the Palestinian side, we're talking about...
Please, Hanan, please conclude.
Du côté palestinien, no, go ahead. Finish your sentence.
We're talking about the religious people on both sides. We're talking about understanding and accepting who they are, their identity, not denying who they are, but accepting the complete legitimacy of their narrative through bringing together neighbors to listen and talk to each other.
Donc, de chaque côté, nous devons accepter le discours de l'autre, accepter les conceptions qu'ils ont, aussi bien religieuses, pour arriver à un point commun pour pouvoir discuter ensemble.
Thank you very much, Rabbi. I know you have a time constraint, and also we have now with us Hamutal Guri of Women Wage Peace. Women Wage Peace was created in 2014 after the war with Gaza, and they organized a march in 2016 with 3,000 women marching together, both Jewish and Arabic and Palestinian.
Il a organisé une marche.
3 minutes, please. Total of 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Okay, good afternoon to everyone. So because I have such little time, let me focus on an aspect that was not yet addressed since the beginning of this fascinating conversation, which is the feminine.
Excuse me, ma'am. I have to ask you to speak for a few sentences and then give me some time so I can translate and then go ahead. Okay? Thank you so much. So you want to... Alors, je voudrais évoquer un aspect de ce problème dont personne n'a parlé jusqu'à présent. Go ahead. Yes, you can go.
Okay, so women wage peace is the largest women's peace movement in Israel. It is a women's led movement. And our goal is twofold: to advocate for a mutually binding peace agreement between Israel and Palestine and the Palestinians, with the active involvement and participation of women. So our vision or our end is...
Et les femmes pour la paix sont un mouvement qui est le plus grand mouvement pour la paix dans l'État d'Israël. Et donc, je vais vous parler de ce mouvement. Yes, go ahead.
Our vision is twofold: a mutually binding peace agreement between Israel and Palestine, achieved with the active participation of women. We are inspired by the idea that is encapsulated in the UN Security Council Resolution number 1325 of October 2000 about women in conflict transformation, or women in peace and security. And the resolution basically have 4 legs. One is participation, active participation of conflict resolution, prevention of conflict, of violence against women that is caused by the conflict, protection of women from violence that is induced by the conflict. And
nous allons nous baser sur la résolution de l'ONU qui est divisée en 4 parties qui concernent les conflits pour les femmes et la paix.
So, as a volunteer-based movement, we work in different strategies. We work in the Knesset. We developed a proposed bill for the government to consider all possible diplomatic alternatives before deciding to go out to war. We are very active in the public sphere with marches, with vigils, and we're working to educate as many women and men on the concept of 1325, meaning promoting the active participation of women in peace negotiations and peace building efforts, civil society level and the grassroots level.
Donc, en tant que mouvement de volontaires, nous sommes actifs auprès de la Knesset. Et auprès des organismes de législation. Okay, thank you.
And I want to say that we're all here because we're committed to peace, and we have not been successful so far in bringing about a peace agreement. However, I can say that I think that Women Wage Peace was successful in doing several things, in partnership, of course, with other wonderful peace organizations. One is maintaining the concept and the idea of peace in the public consciousness. And the other thing, which I think is critical, and that goes back to Rabbi Malchior's point about the disbelief in the possibility of a peace agreement. What we keep hearing from policymakers and from people that we meet on the street is that what we have done is to spark the hope, again, for peace. Because one of our key slogans is, yes, it is possible.
Okay. Donc, nous sommes tous ici avec le mouvement des femmes pour la paix, car nous n'avons pas été capables jusqu'à présent de réaliser cette paix. Donc, ce que nous voulons, c'est faire accepter au public que cette paix est possible et que nous devons arriver à la réaliser. Okay?
Okay, and just to leave us with a hopeful note, I want to just read a quick quote from a wonderful book by Jonathan Lear. It's called Radical Hope. And at Women Wage Peace, we have embraced the notion of radical hope. And this is what Jonathan Lear says. What makes this hope radical is that it is directed toward a future goodness that transcends the current ability to understand what it is. Radical hope anticipates a good for which those who have the hope as yet lack the appropriate concepts with which to understand it. So I think that as women wage peace, as women committed to peace and to an intersectional or an inclusive approach to peace, we are committed to keeping this radical hope for a peaceful future for Israel and for Palestine, even if at the moment it seems less tangible. But it is possible. And I'm going to leave us with this. Yes, it is possible, and peace will come.
Thank you, Jacques.
Pour terminer, je voudrais dire que par une citation de Jonathan Lear dans son livre qui s'appelle L'espoir radical. L'espoir radical, c'est justement penser que l'espoir n'est pas seulement un espoir, mais qu'il peut se réaliser dans la réalité.
The question, so men make war and women wage peace?
If I have time to seriously address this question, I'm happy to address
it. Yes, let's take 1 minute more, please.
Oh, 1 minute. Okay, so it's not that men wage war and women wage peace. It's not that we are born this way. But in many ways, we're socially structured this way. And I would like to say that, and quote from a wonderful, wonderful thought leader, Carol Gilligan, who said that it isn't men, the men are not the problem, okay? Patriarchy is. Now, under patriarchy, care and, caring for life and preserving life is a feminine ethic. But under democracy, care in its deepest sense is a human ethic. So it's not that men are more violent, but we are structured this way. And I think that peace will come when we all, men and women, embrace the idea that our commitment is to preserving life and building life.
Thank you very much for this beautiful conclusion. And Jack, please,
Thank you.
Donc, est-ce qu'on peut dire que les hommes représentent la guerre et que les femmes représentent la paix? Non, je ne peux pas dire que ce soit le cas. En fait, nous sommes conditionnés à penser que les hommes représentent la guerre et les femmes représentent la paix. Mais en fait, nous devons dépasser ces différences pour arriver à une dimension humaine qui est que tous les hommes dans leur ensemble veulent se consacrer pour la paix.
Thank you very much. We are struggling with some technical problems, but it will be okay. And everything is recorded and everything will be taken into account. We will have separate photos and videos. You will receive the minutes and the synthesis of this, but a bit later. So thank you very much for Women Wage Peace. We know the role of women for peace, which is the key. So Sulaiman Khatib, Combatants for Peace, former militaries on the Israeli side and combatants on the Palestinian side who moved to non-violence.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, everybody. It's nice to be with you from afar. My name is Sulaiman Khatib, and so Assembly Combatants for Peace established in 2005-2006 during the Second Intifada by people that took an active role in the conflict in both sides. Even though it's very important for me to mention that we believe the two sides are in different places in the power dynamic. That's very important. A few people spoke about it, and this is very important for us to say that. And also, I would say we believe in a model of joint nonviolent struggle that means that we do activities and take decisions and share the power together. And it's very important, I would say, this journey is important not just to focus on the end goals, which is of course one of our main missions is to work to end the Israeli occupation and to recognize each other rights in this place and to find peace among our peoples on both sides, and using our personal stories of transformation as an example to inspire other people to join the struggle. And this is not going to be a short strategy. We believe and we know this is going to be a life mission for us, and especially that we're specifically about certain people maybe that really, I myself was in jail for 10 years, and that's how I learn about nonviolence through hunger strikes and other nonviolence tools that's used in history that we have to use. And I agree with a lot of things that were said here actually, that as a grassroots activist, we have to take our destiny to our hands and not to leave it to the politicians and to the outside forces to decide our destiny in this land. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Sulaiman, pour ton témoignage. Nous allons maintenant passer à Robi Damelin, du Cercle des familles endeuillées qui ont perdu un proche dans le conflit et qui ont décidé de se rencontrer et de partager leurs souffrances ensemble et toujours dans la non-violence. Robi Damelin, so the circles of endangered families, you've got the floor.
Hi, good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me. The Parent Circle is comprised of more than 600 families who've all lost an immediate family member to the conflict. I joined after I lost my son, David, and from then on, I have been working on the ground to make change. We believe our long-term goal is to create a framework for a reconciliation process to be an integral part of any future political peace agreement. Without that, at best, all we can have is a ceasefire. I was reading what you wrote in the invitation, and I found it strange that you said that maybe because we haven't got a Palestinian state, we should concentrate on the rights of the Palestinians. But the Palestinian state is the rights of the Palestinians, and every other right that is concerned would be about getting out of the occupied territories. And so I think freedom of movement, and if we cannot divorce from our want of creating a Palestinian state and then talk about rights, because it doesn't make any sense. I believe very strongly that people can change. And if you would come to some of the activities that we do on the ground, on the parallel narrative, you will see the transformation of people from hatred. Once we can make the emotional breakthrough by telling stories. Most of the work that we do in schools or on the ground is all to do with telling your personal story. And even the hardest of hearts can change. Please have a look at our website. And I'm sure that you would want perhaps to join some of our activities or watch some of our movies or even be in touch in general. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Robi. Yeah, these are your testimonies of your families is really impressive and very moving, and I would strongly recommend to go to the website that you have. Je recommande d'aller sur votre site puisque les témoignages que vous proposez sont vraiment poignants souvent et témoignent donc de la réalité du vécu de familles endeuillées des deux côtés qui choisissent de se rapprocher. So Ittay Fleischer, he has developed Kids for Peace, so it's on education for young people, both Jews and Arab Palestinians from Jerusalem. Donc Ittay a fondé Kids for Peace, les enfants pour la paix, qui donc travaille à Jérusalem avec des enfants juifs, mais aussi des enfants arabes palestiniens ensemble.
So
1 minute.
In 1 minute, I'll try and be very quickly. So my name is Ittay. I'm a Jewish Israeli, and I work in Kids for Peace together with an Israeli and Palestinian coordinator. And in terms of all of the problems and all of the issues and all the politics, I very much agree with what Naveen said about the issues of Jerusalem and the divisions, and we have that as well. But I just want to share one idea in the 30 seconds I have left. We're in a bizarre situation on this call for the last 2 hours where half of us are speaking English and half of us are speaking French. And everything that's going on is being translated because we don't understand each other. And one of the biggest problems in Jerusalem, in Kids for Peace, is that we don't understand each other. So half of our children will speak Hebrew, half will speak Arabic, and then we speak to each other in English, but we don't really understand. And if you want to do one thing to advance peace, it's to learn the language of the person on the other side and try and connect with them in where they are. And I think if we all spoke the same language, it would make a huge contribution towards living together and breaking down the cultural barriers that exist between us.
Merci beaucoup, Ittay. Je vais traduire l'essentiel en français. Une synthèse, il met beaucoup l'accent. L'un des leviers pour la paix, c'est les langues. Et ici, les enfants parlent hébreu ou arabe, quelquefois les éducateurs parlent en anglais, et donc la question est de se comprendre. Et donc, l'une des solutions, c'est d'apprendre la langue de l'autre. Et d'ailleurs, la réalité là-dessus, c'est que, en fait, beaucoup d'Arabes parlent hébreu, mais c'est beaucoup moins vrai dans l'autre sens. So I just mentioned that a lot of our people understand Hebrew, but few Hebrew people
very true. Yes.
speak Arab. So it's a kind of advantage on this point, you know, for Palestinian people, because they much more speak the language of Hebrew of the Jews of Israel.
Yeah,
Okay.
and language is power as well. So that's very important to remind people.
La langue, c'est aussi le pouvoir, effectivement. Merci beaucoup.
Bonjour.
Bonne journée. Ori is a member of Breaking the Silence. What is Breaking the Silence? It's a former soldier of Tzahal, the Israeli Defense Army, the army of Israel, and they just testimony on what they have lived, and to make truth maybe also happen, if possible.
Yeah.
Donc, je traduis simplement, et Jacques va prendre le relais ensuite, que Breaking the Silence, ça veut dire donc rompre le silence, et ce sont des anciens militaires israéliens, donc de l'armée israélienne, et qui ont décidé, après leur expérience à l'armée, de raconter, de dire, et d'ailleurs il y a des vidéos, il y a des interviews, souvent anonymes d'ailleurs, hein, ce qu'ils ont vécu avec l'armée israélienne. Tu as, if possible, 1 or 2 minutes conclusion? Yes?
No problem.
Great.
Okay, so thank you everyone. My name is Ori Givati. I'm the advocacy coordinator of Breaking the Silence. And basically, if I have 1.5 minutes, I would say the most simple message that we want to bring. We in Breaking the Silence are working to expose the truth, the reality of the occupation, of what it means to control millions of people with a military force, what it entails, what we as soldiers took part in, what we did, you know, home invasions, military training over the Palestinian population, and many other examples of what the occupation entails. What we believe is the bridge, is the most important thing to do right now, is to talk about it, to expose the truth, because most people choose, it's their own choice, in many times, to stay away, to not really listen to us, and to have all the other organizations that are talking about the reality. We believe that, of course, the occupation is immoral, and that if everyone who listened to me want to do one thing today in order to help us end it, is to talk about what it really means. The dehumanization of Palestinians that are living under this occupation, for example, is something that we all have to talk about. So this is our main message. Talk about the truth and the reality, and don't let the noise and the smears against human rights organizations to hide the truth from you.
We have Yuval Rahamim of the Israeli Peace NGOs Forum. He's speaking from us to us from Tel Aviv, I guess.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for inviting me. I would like, because I have such a short time, I would like to really be highlighting one main point. I'm the chairperson of the Israeli Peace NGO Forum, which is a network of more than 100 organizations working for peace and working together in Israel and cross-border with Palestinian organizations. And there were many activists here speaking from both sides, Palestinian and Israelis. And I would like to, because of the short time, focus on one point. This is the Israeli Peace NGO Forum. That means that we are a network of Israeli organizations. And this is, and we are in a completely different situation than our Palestinian partners, Palestinian organizations, because I would say that Palestinian peace organizations, they work pretty much in line with the official government line in Palestine and with most of the population in Palestine. They're serving the needs, the very, very urgent needs of the Palestinian people. And when they refer to peace, they see peace first as end of occupation and Palestinian states. I think that this is the immediate translation of peace for Palestinians right now, and that's common both for Palestinian NGOs working for peace and for the Palestinian Authority. Whereas in Israel, peace NGOs, they are not in line with the government, and mostly they are not in line with most of the Israeli population. We are in a situation where the Israeli government is no longer acting for peace and for ending the conflict with the Palestinians. We are in a situation where most Israelis do not believe in peace. And as Hamutal said before, will not fight for peace, will not step out of home to work for peace. And peace for most Israelis at this point means security. And at this point, Israelis rely for security, rely on the army, on the armed forces. They will not think immediately as peace for a solution for their lack of security, for the needs of security. And this is why we as peace NGOs working, we need not just to work in partnership with our Palestinian partners and with the rest of the world. We need to educate the Israeli population, and we need to try to push the Israeli government to start finding the correlation between the Israeli needs, the long-term Israeli goals, and peace. The only way that Israelis will feel safe and that will Israel prosper and reach its goals is through peace. And this is the main goal of us peace NGOs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yuval. Which and you coordinate so with these NGO with the Israeli Peace NGOs Forum, so we can cooperate. I would like also to really thank Jacques Moutot, Yaakov Boto for doing the interpretation. It's a hard task, and he's doing that very well, even if the conditions are not, not the best ones we could have dreamed of.